I purchased my first property when I was 19 and I'm 33 years now, so I've been investing for over a decade, made plenty of mistakes, things have gone well and not so well, and I want to share with you what I would do if I could go back again to 19 with the knowledge that I've got now in today's market and show you exactly what I would do. Step one, I would focus on my finances a bit more and just stop the bullshit. So I think one of the weakest mindsets that I personally had, and maybe you can relate to this, is I used to think that my past dictates my future. And the reality is that's just not true. Now, don't get me wrong. If I started with a family that had really strong finances and they come from a family of entrepreneurs and they had money, would I probably be further than I am today? Honestly, I don't know, but assuming, yes. But I can bitch and moan about that, or I can just take account of my current situation, look at what I can control, and then double down on that. And to give a little bit of background of what I mean, and this isn't a big poor me sob story, but my upbringing was my dad left my mum when I was 3 months old, and so I didn't really know any different. My mum had 4 kids, single mum, and most of my family are council house benefit tenants, and most of the others work with their hands. My dad died, unfortunately, when I was 13 years old from bowel cancer, and that left quite a void in my life. And the reason I'm sharing that isn't like a oh poor me moment. I'm sure many of you watching this have gone through something similar. But I did have a choice. I could apply meaning to that and go, oh, so much is down for me in my life and everything's gone wrong for me. Or I could actually focus on the situation at hand and realize that the opportunities that I've got are the same as pretty much everyone. Now, let me caveat that. I am a young guy in south of England, opportunities everywhere. I've got internet access and mobile phones. That is pretty much all you need. I do not believe in this bullshit of, I grew up in this financial situation. You don't know what it's like to have this. It's like, no, but what I do know is that you have the exact same opportunities to make money as every other fucker in the UK that has the ability to have a laptop, a phone, and an internet connection. So control the controllables and let go of the uncontrollables in your life. So what can we actually control when it comes to our finances? Well, the first thing I like to think of is a 70-20-10 approach to my finances. So what is 70-20-10? Well, the 70 is an allocation. 70% of my net income is going to be allocated, attributed to my monthly outgoings. Now, for some of you, that will be your house, your food, gym, phone bill. Maybe you're subscribed to a cinema, for example, or whatever it is. But whatever is on an ongoing account, it should never go over 70% of your income. Now, I want to be real with you. The first time that I did this, honestly, my outgoing seemed somehow represented 105% of my income. So I had my income and my genuine monthly expenses were 5% above that, which made no fucking sense whatsoever, apart from the fact it was like, well, actually, it does make sense. I'm going into my overdraft, got a credit card, and my mum's lending me 50 quid every month to help me get by, right? So then I've got 2 choices. Well, do I have the skill set to suddenly increase that income? And at that point, the answer was no. Or actually, I'm going to caveat that. My mindset told me it was no. The reality is very fucking different. And I promise you the same is true of you. You have the skill today to make 5 grand more than you're making right now. And that's without even knowing you. Get to that in a moment though. So the other thing that is actually harder yet easier to do is cut your costs. And you will be shocked how much you can cut your costs. So what I did is I called all of my subscriptions and cancelled the ones that were not necessary, and there's so much more that is not necessary. My phone is a great example where I cancelled it. And here's the thing actually. So I actually was in contract and they charged me 3 months cancellation fee. And most people at that point would go, well, no, I'm not going to do it. But actually, it's a smart financial decision. So I think it was something, this was a long time ago now, it's £45 a month. And I ended up paying something like 150 quid. And then I was paying £8 a month. And so I went back to, I don't know if you remember back in the day where you paid for your credit and then it runs out, right, by like the 10th of the month. And that's what I did. So I literally got it, paid it, and it did. It ran out on the 10th of the month, and I just went 20 days without the ability to dial out to people. And guess what? By month 3, you are very considerate, and I'll be honest, really what it looked like was, hey, can you call me? Texting everybody, right? And then when WhatsApp's come about, it was really good because I just connect to Wi-Fi wherever I could, right? So the point is, you might go, fuck that. But the reality is, if you want to be financially responsible, actually just realize you haven't earned those luxuries. You just haven't. And if you want to really get successful, it comes from the 20 and the 10, but it all starts with that 70 and financial control. 20% is your investment pot. And for me, this is the most exciting one. The caveat to that is that 20% investment pot doesn't go into stocks and shares at the beginning. So you need to assess to yourself, what's the skill gap that you've got? I'm telling you right now, Alex Hormozy says this really well. If you don't have the knowledge on how to make $1 million a year, it's costing you $1 million a year to not have that knowledge. And it's sort of one of those one-liners that is like, well, yeah, obviously, but actually is quite profound. The reality is the gap between you and financial freedom is just application of knowledge. And so you need to ask yourself, is it that you haven't applied the knowledge, or is it that you don't have the knowledge? Because I'm telling you, if you're not making 10 grand a month, which is absolutely fine, by the way, but you absolutely can make that money if that's what you want. And all it is this knowledge gap. So that 20% pot, for me, should go into investing in yourself. Warren Buffett says the best investment you can ever make is in yourself, and he's a pretty shrewd guy. And in whatever that is, if it's in property, which is my game, whether it's stocks, trading, maybe it's developing a skill, becoming a speaker is really powerful and a valuable skill set, for example, you should be investing in that. Outside of that, once you've got it and your active income's coming, you invest that 20% into property, stocks, whatever it is that's right for you. And then the 10% is your debts. Now, it's really important this is not financial advice, hence the whole part of this video, and I'm not going to keep saying it because I'll get told off, but not financial advice, but I find a figure that's acceptable. So for me, any debts that I have that are 8% or lower, I really don't worry about. And the reason I don't worry about that is I can make so much more than 8% from my investments. But what I would do with the 10% is I get all of my investments and I line them up into highest interest to lowest interest. And I pay them off in that sense. So every month, 10% will go down to paying those debts off. Now, quick tip for you. This is very much an eat that frog moment. And what I mean by that is what people often do is they'll see that they've got a £50 debt and they'll just pay that off. Go, oh, at least I've paid that off, right? It's like, yeah, but if that £50 was only 3% a year, but you've got 20,000 on a credit card, for example, that's costing you 21% a year, every single penny should go on that 21 grand. And yes, whilst you don't get that dopamine hit from paying something off and feeling like a winner, you actually are, because you should be tracking your net wealth in the negative. And I always used to do this, so I'd have it in bright red. I am negative 33,500. And 6 months later, I was minus 32,000. And actually, by documenting that and visualizing it, yes, it's a shit color to be looking at. Yes, it's shit seeing a negative in front of my net wealth, but it was really positive because I could see the progress of moving forward. And you can do that no matter what your current financial situation is. So if you don't have a skill that you're looking to apply on a per hour basis, it's going to happen in your job. So a good bit of advice I would have is to remove ego, do your research. In my experience, and I say from my experience as an employer, most of my friends that own businesses, it's not trying to get cheap labor, it's trying to get valuable labor. And if you've watched my channel for a while, a line that I say quite a lot is price is what you pay, value is what you get. I'd rather pay 35 grand for somebody that's a really high value person in that role compared to, say, somebody at 25 grand thinking you've got a great deal, but actually they're 5 years behind that other person. And I'm going to tell you this right now, an A player is worth 5 times a B player. They really are. And so with that in mind, research your own pay grades. You know, and what I would recommend is take ego out of it. In my experience, not all the time, a lot of the time an employee has researched their own pay grade, they found something with a similar title, and then when you read it, they don't have half the skills within there. So like really remove your ego from this, because actually a lot of the time, if you took your ego out of it, you're probably paid about right. And a great question, I was talking to an employee the other day, and I love the way they ask for pay rises, and they always fucking ask, by the way, but they'll always come and just go, hey, I've got an idea of a figure in my mind. What do you need to see from me for me to be worth that for you? And I love that because it puts the pressure on me to go, I don't know. What would be worth that amount of money? And the cool thing is that actually your employer's response is often going to be really positive, because the way you're posturizing it and putting it forward is, what value do you need to see from me that would warrant me getting paid this? And that would be my strong recommendation of how to ask for a pay rise. So now we focused on the money. The next thing is mindset. I wish I could go back and shift my mindset. I had such a poor person's mentality. And I just want to be really clear that like how much money you have in your bank account right now is absolutely on you. So if you are dead broke watching this, it's your fault. If you're absolutely rich watching this, it's your fault. And I can't remember who said this line. It's like, if you're born poor, it's not your fault. If you die poor, it absolutely is. And I strongly believe in that. I just don't think, and I think most people watching this video probably have a more positive mindset than others. And I'm saying this now on the other side of it. I can promise you that I did not have this mindset back in the day, and it really hurt me for a number of years. I don't know why. Honestly, I was just a little bitch about it. I think it was jealousy in hindsight, maybe ego, because I'll back myself, but then I'll see somebody doing really well. And like I'll give you an example. I'm not proud of this. I'd be on like a course, like a property investment course in the early days with my business partner, Dan. And I'd be watching these people and be like, I'm more intelligent than them. And then when they did deals, I would justify why they got deals and why I didn't. Like, what a pathetic human I was. Like, what a little bitch, right? But the reality is, if I had the mindset of going, that's incredible, there's nothing special about them, there's nothing special about me, which means that they're doing something different. I'd love to learn from that person. If I could shift my mindset when I was younger, I'd be so much further ahead. And I've done pretty well, don't get me wrong, but I would be so much further ahead. The reality is, and this is one of my favorite quotes by Dr. DeMartini, the skill set without the mindset will leave you upset. You can have all the skills in the world. If you think you're a loser, you're absolutely right. If you think you're a winner, you're absolutely right. And I think it was Harrison Ford that said that, right? If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And it's not like the affirmation bullshit, you know? It's not like rubbing your ears in the mirror going, I am a millionaire. What the fucking bollocks is that? It's not like I am a millionaire. I have a millionaire mind. I don't mean that sort of thing. I mean, hey, it's December the 25th, 2025. I've had my first six-figure year. I like that sort of thing. So I future pace it and I write it in the present tense. And it's like, it's anchoring where I'm going to. And mindset for me is all about focusing on the yeses. And what I mean by that is Stoic philosophy or Stoicism is all about controllables and uncontrollables. So let's say I'm a person that's trying to close an investor. And it's like, well, I could have an okay skill set, an okay script, okay leads, okay contacts on LinkedIn. But if I did 100 reach outs a day, 100 dial outs a day, I know my inputs will eventually equate to the outputs. So the mindset shift I would have is to focus on the things that I can control and then realize that nobody is special. And I honestly believe that for me, that was one of the most important things for me. It's just like, it's a bit crude, but it's like the highest level CEO goes and has a shit at the end of the day. And I always remember somebody saying that to me. And it's like, what it meant was like, it doesn't matter if they're in a £2 million a year job, they still take their suit off at the end of the day. They still go back and they drive maybe a nicer car, but they're still driving home. They're probably still stuck in the same traffic. They go home to what they've got at home, probably a nicer house, and they go in bed. But everything is the same. Everyone shits the same, everyone sneezes the same, everyone breathes the same. And when you realize that we are so factually equal and insignificant in a really positive way, you start to realize that everyone's special and everyone has that opportunity. And if it's for everyone else, why can't it be for you? So get over yourself, stop being a little bitch, and focus on the things you can take action on today. Last thing I really want to say on mindset is become a bit of a copycat. I remember at school it was like this: don't look at other people's work, don't read other people's essays, don't do this. And I'm like, but in the real world, that's exactly what you do to become successful. So before I started the YouTube channel, and this YouTube's going okay, well, I used to watch other people's channels, and it's really good. I'd look at what they did well, what they didn't do so well, and I tried to mirror that as much as possible. So in the real world, your network is your net worth. You want to surround yourself with the best people you can and rely on these experts that have been there before you. And for me, not only does that, number one, give you great validation of the result, and if they've got results, all you need to do is find out what they did, what they didn't do. They can also guide you along the journey. And this could be from like a mentor type position if you're looking to start your own business, or it could be more of a done for you service if you're looking to get that return on your investment. So an example of this is my portfolio team. So they have conversations every day with would-be investors, and they're coming from a place of building successful portfolios for years now. We've done over 1,000 properties for our investors over the last 10 years, and many of my team invest themselves. And so when you sort of communicate with a team like that, they're coming from a place of authority and amazing mindset, because they've not just thought of the process, they've not just thought of the outcomes, they've lived them through to fruition. And so it can be really effective whenever you're investing yourself to work with a team like that, that already has the mindset, that already has the skill set, that can guide you through to that. And by the way, if you're watching this and you've got over 100K to invest, you're looking to scale your property portfolio this year, put APG in the comments. What I'd love to do is help you out with that mindset and even just giving you some strategic guidance. So if you put APG, it's for people that have actually got the funds, 100K plus, to invest in property. And I'll book in a free one-to-one strategy session with my team, and they'll help you with that mindset, work out where you're at, where you want to get to, and give you some strategic guidance on how you can get from A to B this year. Next step is raising your rates. Let's make some more money. How do we make more money when we've only got a limited amount of time? And I often reflected on this, but didn't really know how to execute it early doors. Like, why is it that Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, all of these incredible individuals have 168 hours in the week, the same as you and me? How is it that in their lifetime, I think the recent update was Elon Musk now worth over 400 billion with a B. That's like the bottom 10 countries' yearly GDP put together. It's absolutely insane, right? How is it somebody can do that and yet some of us barely make a living? And one of those things is raising your rates, and that comes from outsourcing. So a really effective thing to do is actually understand what your rate is right now. So from a job point of view, this might baffle you. The average employee only does 2 hours and 44 minutes of work per day. If I say that to my employees, they will make all the argument in the world that that is absolutely not true. I do double that at least. I do so much more. No, they don't. The average is 2 hours and 44 minutes of actual work, right? If you worked out your rate right now, I can near guarantee most of you will be £50 or more per hour. And so theoretically, what you should be doing is everything that's under that per hour, you should be outsourcing. You've got to delegate to elevate. And remember, there's a big difference between delegation and abdication here, and I have to learn that myself. So if you want to elevate your rates, elevate your position, you have to learn to delegate effectively. And by the way, this is in personal life and business life. Let's say cleaner, for example. Cleaner might be £15 an hour and might take them 2 hours every week to clean the house spotless. For me, I'm fucking useless. So I'd spend about 7 hours on one room because I can definitely clean a room and have a film on in the background, right? And I fuck it all up and then it's useless and then I need to get cleaner anyway. But more importantly, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. And so many people end up focusing on the price of something rather than the value of something. And I would strongly encourage you to outsource as much of your life as possible. Now think about it. It could be the gardening, the cooking, driving, cleaning, so much of your personal life that you could outsource. And you could either use that and utilize that time to spend it onto something way more valuable, or indeed, you could actually spend it with your loved ones. That sounded wrong, actually. That's also valuable. But what I mean is you could either use it to work on things that have a higher per hour rate or spend it with your loved ones. So let's say the missus, for example, let's say it's even like, oh, she does the cooking. It's like, well, it's not really good relationship time, is it? If we're not cooking together, then there's nothing of value really going on there. So when it comes to business, again, a great example, this may baffle you, but on average, it takes us 120 hours. 120 hours of our time to find the perfect property for our investors. And the reason for this is, number one, we need to understand criteria. You then need to scope out and get a load of lead flow in order to talk to people to find the right property. Then you need to go and do a load of viewings. Then you need to get builders around to price up effectively. Then you need to secure your offer. Then you need to get it through legals. So it's about 120 hours of our time, and on average around £2,000 of spend in order to get that. So if you think in your role, if you had to spend 120 hours plus £2,000, what would that cost? And then often with our investors, because we're based up in Yorkshire, we picked it as our best investment zone in the UK. If you think most of our investors are usually down south, you can't, well, say you've got 100 grand, what can you buy in London for 100 grand? Maybe a shed, a parking space. And so on top of that, it's taking time out of your job to come and do all of those viewings. And that's just an example from a practical application of like, when you outsource effectively and utilize other people, and I'm using my example as property investment, your rate actually goes up. And by the way, I said this earlier, if you've got the money to invest 100K plus and you want to have a chat, put APG in the comments. So I'm using the property example. My real honest opinion is do what you really enjoy doing. So if you want to raise your rates early, you've got the great mindset already, you should be outsourcing as much as possible. And this is, if you're looking to build your property portfolio, outsource it to a company like ours. If you're looking to have more fun at home and enjoy your home life a bit more, the house that you've worked so bloody hard to buy in the first place, outsource those bits so you can focus on raising your rates from a business point of view and enjoying your time you've got with your loved ones as much as possible. If I could go back in time, I think the first thing I'd get in check is my ego. Like if I had a word to represent what let me down, it was ego. Ego and insecurity, which in itself is ego, I guess. Stop focusing on other people. Focus on your economy rather than the economy. Focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. Stop being a little bitch. Your past does not dictate your future. It's the actions that you take today. And I hope that this video has been valuable, and I hope it causes just one of you to take action today. If it has, hit the like and subscribe button. And if you do want to reach out and have a chat with the team, it's APG in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video.